allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
4C, preview approval of agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 5, consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Yes.
Item 6, delegations. You have no delegations?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Item 7, old business. You have none. Item 8A, new business, partner organization, academic booster.
Tonight, we have Laura Coffey from the Academic Booster Club who will present share some information for us.
I'm Laura. I'm the treasurer with the Harrisonville High School Academic Booster Club, and I'm here to tell you some of the things we're doing. We are kind of the academic boosting arm of things. Much like the Athletic Booster Club, we provide some honors and incentives for students when they make academic gains and have academic achievements. In September, for instance, and in the fall every year, we provide awards for ACT students who score 30 or higher. We recognize students who do well in AP exams, and we recognize academic letters for the previous semester. So that's kind of a big deal. These are presented right now. They are presented through the school, and they receive them in their advisory class. So they're given those awards, and they'll have like a pin or a letter or whatever they've earned. In January, we also had our business partner Culver's provided coupons for students who had achieved well that previous semester. So we're kind of along the way trying to keep kids incentivized to keep, striving for good grades and those high academic achievements. So it's really kind of what we're here to do. We'll be providing certificates for seniors who have lettered in academics during the spring here. They receive gold honor cords to their graduation based on grade point average. They've earned, I believe, 4.0 or higher. So our group is really small right now. We had 2 officers this year. So this year was a year where we continued to do the things we were doing, but we were not able to gain and do a lot. So our focus this year, we met last week and we had 6 people at an interest meeting, which, that really is a considerable increase from 2. So we're trying to look at it really optimistically. We're wanting to get back to doing some of the things that the Academic Booster Club did in the past. In the past, we were able to do some small teacher grants and some ice cream bar incentives, a little bit more awards. We had an awards ceremony. So, we want to really get back to doing some of those things. We're excited about it. We have some new faces coming along who are, hey, we're excited about this. What can I do to help? And really, we need, 5 or 6 people just to do fundraisers and do the things that make you be able to grow as an organization, increase, your treasury and do some of those things. This year, we've elected our new officers for next year. Like I said, we have more than 2, so we're excited. We're growing. We're always welcoming parents to come along. We have a Facebook page, and we try to keep people kind of connected when we're meeting. And always are looking for more parents to get in there and say, hey, what can I do to help? We want to continue to be able to do these things for the students that kind of say, boost their academic performance and say, you're doing a good job, this is important, we're recognizing you. So that's what we're all about.
Any questions?
Is there ever a ceremony for where the kids are recognized?
I think pre-2020, there was normally, I believe, and you'll have to talk to some of the old boosters, that was when I had my kids were in middle school, but I believe there was a ceremony, academic achievement ceremony, where these awards were presented, and I know some members from the Booster Club came in and participated in that. So yeah, that would be really neat to get something like that going, where you have a tangible award presentation, your picture on Facebook and maybe in the paper and kind of say, hey, good job, something like that. That's really special. Thank you.
Thanks for speaking it
Very
out.
much, Item 8B, superintendent update.
All right, I've got quite a few things for you, so hold on to your seats. First of all, I always like to bring the enrollment report to you. This time, this month, last year, we were up 20, so we're down 20 with regards to that. So just kind of holding steady at that 15 to 20 loss from what we've seen previously, as indicated in our enrollment projections. Another thing I'd like for you to consider for your calendar, this is not a set in stone, but just a start, is looking at our summer retreat, looking at the possibility of June 17th. And so again, we will come back together as a board, and I'll talk with Mr. Meyer about that possible. Again, nothing set in stone, but I want us to just start thinking about our board retreat for the summer and kind of get that in our planning for the future. Another thing that I'd like to share with you is I have been meeting with all of the schools in our district to give them an update related to the budget financial outlook for next year. And as Susan and I, every time I come back, she goes, "How did it go?" And I said, well, it's not a sad story and it's not a happy story, it's just kind of a story. And I say that in a way that nobody cheered for me after I was done talking about it, but nobody threw anything at me either. But it is a reality that we're living in, and it's important for us to note a couple of things. The COVID provision for what we get our state funding from, which is called WADA, that's the weighted average daily attendance. COVID provision said when all of our districts were seeing a loss of students, they were able to say anytime there's a significant impact on enrollment, the state can come in and say, hey, we're going to allow you to look back a couple of years or do something. They said at that time, we will allow every district in the state to use 2019, prior to COVID's weighted ADA count. And so because we were able to use that, they allowed 4 years of that. Next year, that COVID provision goes away, and it does impact us quite a bit because our ADA has gone down. There's some positives in that. There's a recalculation of free and reduced students, and the state, the governor, and DESE has requested more funding per student. So it's called the student adequacy target, the state adequacy target. Has been about $6,300 a student per ADA for about 10 or 12 years. It hasn't gone up at all. And so with the governor and DESE looking to request that, they're looking at it possibly moving up to about $6,700 a student for next year. That's a very big help, especially if you had lost some students over the time. However, with all of that loss, we are going to see a decrease in our state funding. And that decrease really comes from a significant number of students lost over the last 5 years, which is about 200 plus students. And so we need to make sure that we're stepping with a very light foot over the next couple of years and be very conservative in our approach. And we're looking at ways that we will continue to do that. And Deb will be presenting in the next month or so our request for the budget for next year, so we have some things that we're working on. And we got a few things that are in our favor as well, one of which is we live in a very growing community as far as having a good tax base, good assessed valuation, which affects what we're able to get. Next year is a non-reassessment year, but however, with new personal property and new construction, we will still see some positive benefit from that. And there is the Prop C, which is the state education tax. The amount of that per student is going to go up. So we're setting in an area that says just stop and make sure that you're stepping with positive intent, making sure that you're doing the right thing. Now, anytime that we look at salary increases, we know that there's additional expenses to our overall budget. So we want to make sure that as we present to the board, we're doing whatever we can to positively impact our employees who make up our great district, but also making sure that we're cautious in our steps with that as well. One of the things that it continues to be an extreme expense for our district is staff insurance. And I say it's an extreme expense in the way that it continues to go up each year. And it continues to have, last year it went up about 17% with a renegotiation and looking for other providers. It was still about a 16.5% increase. And that's something that we just can't continue to fend off. And so we need to make a few decisions with regards to our insurance, and we have that as one of our items tonight. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer some of that. But again, it's a story and an understanding of caution. And I'd like to also state one last thing with the work of Mr. Minching, Nevathi, and the school board over the last 4 or 5 years. Very good decisions made that allow us to be able to weather these storms. And those of you that have been on there with Mr. Minching at that time, he said, there's going to be a time when this is going to go away, and we're just going to have to make sure that we're ready. And you guys have done an amazing job of making sure that we're prepared for that rainy day. And so I wanted you guys to know that I've started to share that. What I just stated is not easy to put into a paragraph or an email, and so that's why I did go around and make sure I talked to all of our staff members in our district about that. Any questions about that communication? I'll share that. Okay. The other thing that we have, one of the things that you guys heard from me in not only my interview in hiring, but also with our strategic planning and with that outlook when we met at our winter retreat and then our prior summer retreat, was we have to focus on academics. It has to be a priority in our district, and we will make sure that we are doing curriculum and academic work as we have added those 8 professional development days to our calendar, which you guys approved last year. And so what I'd like to do right now is I have Mrs. Knox, who has been leading that charge. She has a presentation that she's going to share with you guys to kind of review some of the things that we're working on as well. I'll join in on a few of the things, but related to the work that we've been doing. And then this month is a very busy month. If you're an administrator or a kid out there, you know how busy it is for this mid-April to mid-May time frame. So Mrs. Knox, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to focus on are kind of not only what we did with those 8 days, but kind of what our big charges were for this year and our big focuses. So one of them being the utilization of our 8 professional development days. And it started off with us as an administrative team planning last year, kind of like our hopes and dreams of what these days look like. And it quickly at the beginning of the year was a realization of where we needed to take a step back and to slow down a little bit and to get a pulse check of where we were as a district. I was able to do that with the help of the curriculum specialists. I don't know that I would have been able to survive without them, but so we started with these Monday collaboration days, and the very first thing that we worked on was alignment to state standards. When I'm talking, I don't want to say that we have done things wrong in the past, because that's not what I'm saying. But we have strayed a little bit from what we should be teaching and why we should be teaching it. And so that was our very first thing, the going back to the alignment to our DESE state standards. Then with that, writing our unit plans and aligning those to those standards, making sure that we are covering what our kids are expected to learn in each one of those grade levels, and making sure that within our units that they are represented and they're being taught. And they're being taught consistently, so that we don't have to have the conversations of this class in this grade level did better because this teacher did X, Y, and Z. Instead, we know what is being taught in every classroom across grade levels, and the art of each teacher is still present, because it's a craft. Teaching is a craft, and so that they still have that autonomy for those things, but to ensure that I can say every third grader is going to be taught these units and aligned to these standards. So that actually is what has taken us most of our 8 days, and our teachers outside of those 8 days a significant amount of time. And their work, even though right now doesn't feel like, they probably aren't super thrilled with having to do that work, the value of it, we'll start to see the value of that work as we continue on through our progression, which I'll go through here in just a second too. So alignment of written curriculum to state standards, that's the unit plan writing, consistency of learning between content and grade levels. Also really working to align K-5 and 6-12 and then K-12. That's our goal, is so that we can look at the progression, since we have so many transitions between our buildings in our district, like how many times our kids go through an elementary school, making sure that there's consistency there. Addition of standard reference assessment. So that is evaluate testing. We started that in October, I think was the first one that we rolled out. And what that does is that gives our teachers, it's a monthly assessment measuring the progress towards mastery of those standards. So what that does is students are assessed in reading and math every month at the beginning of the month. Probably not their most favorite thing, probably would not have been my most favorite thing. However, the data that is coming out of that is extremely valuable and has been very, very helpful of looking at, hey, I taught this unit the way that it's written, but my students still didn't perform to the expectation I had based off of my unit assessment and our evaluate assessment that looked at our standards. So then we go back and we tweak that unit so that we have something to reflect on, and it's data driven as opposed to just thoughts, feelings. As a teacher, it had been so frustrating to just be like, hey, I don't really know what I did right or wrong to get the results that why I had them, or why in Deb's class she got this and my students performed here. So it's just helped kind of clear that up. Also, we have done, so another focus is the evaluation of resources and sources being used for instruction across the district. I'm still currently working on that, just getting an idea of what people are pulling for sources and resources, so that we can get an idea of what all is being used. Programs, websites, books, textbooks, online platforms, all the things. So we're really working on that. We also focused on PLC training for administrators. So all of our district administrators went to PLC training in December. I'm also taking a team to the professional learning community training at the end of May in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so that we are starting to build the capacity of teacher leaders and guiding coalitions in our buildings, so that there is that shared leadership, and also that getting to where we can have data-driven decision-making and conversation and collaboration in buildings. So I'm really excited to see how that kind of shifts our conversations with those other pieces now being put in place. We also this year, we started our own in-house VTAP program. So this is for beginning teacher assistance program. They have to go through a 2-year VTAP program for certification requirements. And so the curriculum specialist and I revised all the new teacher onboarding program over the summer. And then with that, we developed our own VTAP program here in the district as opposed to them going to like UCM or different programs to get those hours completed. We were able to meet the requirements that then we can do it in-house. We started off doing an elementary and a secondary and quickly realized that they actually liked being all together, and it was a much more productive, useful conversation having K-12 together. And so actually yesterday was our last PD day and our last VTAP meeting, and so the curriculum specialist put together these fun little bags for all of our new teachers and had a big celebration with cupcakes that you made it for your first year, well, almost. And kind of pump them up like, yay, here comes state testing. This is right now. Thank you for staying here. Another thing that we have worked on is streamlining our Title I program, K-5. So that is still a work in progress, but we are developing a Title I handbook for the district. And we are working with a consultant, kind of, not really, she's just wonderful, and helping us kind of look at our practices and our assessments and getting it so that it's consistent how a kid goes into Title I and how they are dismissed from Title I and looking at streamlining that process. And then real world learning, client connected projects, and the Kauffman Foundation. So we are in year 2 of the Kauffman grant for real world learning and client connected projects. So we've been really focusing on growing and learning our opportunities that we already have in the district, and then how we can kind of expand on those. And Mr. Rohrbeck has been wonderful of kind of walking me through that because I was new to that world. But just meeting with Robin Colburn, who's been amazing, and Valerie Ellsworth, our secondary curriculum specialist, kind of getting all of us on the same page. And we had a meeting, I don't remember when it was, Mark, but wherever you are, I knew you came in here at some point, of like, okay, here's our 1-year goal, here's our 3-year goal, here's all the way out to 2030, where all of our graduates will graduate with a market value asset connected to their diploma. So that is something that we're really focusing on and working on, and has consumed a lot of time and energy. And then testing.
Can I go over that?
No, yes.
Before we start, I want to let you guys know, she talked about the state standards. We have a responsibility as a district to teach the standards that our state sets before us. Many of the districts, not necessarily around here, and in the country, who continue to say, well, they're teaching this to my kid, or they're doing this for my kid, or this and that, and it causes a lot of frustration. Doesn't happen when you're teaching the state standards. When anybody else says, well, what are you teaching? Are you teaching them that or this and that? No, we teach what the state tells us we're supposed to teach. So the work that we do is based solely on that, and our units are planned from that. We know we're doing what's best for our kids, and that has been the main work that we have done. We teach state standards. We don't make up things that we want to teach. We teach state standards. And sometimes it comes into play where somebody says, well, they have that math textbook or that reading textbook or all of that. That's a resource. It's not the source. It's not the curriculum. Curriculum is the standards. So we will continue to make sure that that's our focus in our district, and our teachers have done an amazing job with this work. It is hard and it is frustrating, but it is what will continue to move us forward and for us to be academically excellent, and Laura to give us lots of thumbs up from their academic booster club. So the work that we do continues to support the work that they do. Finally, we are in testing season, and I will tell you that we started something last week. Those high schoolers that are in the room that are not seniors this year experienced quite a deal last Tuesday, but it's excellent, and the work that our high school has done will continue every year with this testing day. But what we do is on that day, at the end of our school years, we will test all of our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and ultimately move into some of our seniors who would like to retake some of the assessments that they've taken. But all of our freshmen last week took the pre-ACT. All of our sophomores took the ASVAB. Our juniors have the option of two different things, either the ACT work keys or the ACT test. And we're all familiar with the ACT test. ACT work keys is the career and technical equivalent of the ACT, and it is an excellent way for somebody who wants to show their skills with regards to employment to be able to take, and we're excited about getting some of those results back, but they all have that opportunity. And then with our juniors having that ability to take the ACT then, now they can see, hey, I need to take it again, or I might need to take it in the summer or something, so that we are preparing them. We are setting that stage for their success. And then starting in the next week or two, we will have MAP testing. So please note, if you are visiting schools or happen to be around, our 3rd through 8th graders are going to be doing ELA and math, and then our 5th and 8th graders have a little bit of extra where they'll be doing the science MAP testing. And we can't wait for those results because of the work that we've been putting into that. Remember, it is just another marker and data point of the work that we've been doing. It's not the only point, but it does show as an outward data point to our community the work that we've been doing. And then finally, EOCs at the high school will take place: English 2, Biology 1, Algebra 1, 2, and Government. So it's a very busy time, and I'm really proud of everybody preparing for that time. Any questions for what we've done? Because we've got some next steps.
As far as like the other assessments and everything, will that kind of be shown too, as far as the routines of how they're doing on the other testing too? Like for the freshmen, sophomore, juniors?
Yeah, when we start to get that data back, we'll share that along with our MAP and the EOC data, just so we can. I understand that there used to be a piece where you would say, well, everybody, and if you've been around for the last 6 or 8 years, the state used to pay for the ACT for every junior. And there was a big statement at that time, well, now our average is going to go down. Well, that's true. With the introduction of the ACT work keys, those kids who know, I'm not going to college, I don't need that ACT score, now they have the ACT work keys, so that should offset that. But we're not worried about exactly what that average is, because this is giving those kids that opportunity. But Mr. Rohrvig will be putting all of that together. We'll have a presentation along with our MAP scores and everything about it. And we're pretty excited. And I would just say to Laura, with our Academic Booster Club, I've asked Dr. Hickman and Mr. Rohrvig, once we start getting data back, we want to share pictures, posters of those academically excellent students that are scoring high on the work keys, putting posters up in our buildings, celebrating those kids, as well as those that are academically proficient on that ACT, those that are getting those higher ones. We want to make sure that they're front and center with some big posters for all of their hard work and effort. So we're looking forward to that. All right, we just do have a few next steps.
Yeah, so we will continue revisions on unit plans and ensuring standard alignment. We just had our professional development committee meeting last night, and so we looked over our survey results and needs assessment results that we had sent out, and overwhelmingly there's a lot of need for instructional strategies for Tier 1, which is perfect. That goes hand in hand with our next steps after unit planning. So that will be a big focus for next year, is our instructional strategies for our Tier 1 instruction, which is just our everyday instruction that we ask that 100% of our students receive consistently. With that, also instructional support, and that's kind of the need for the instructional coaches, and continue to looking at how I can help provide support in buildings. As we conducted those interviews, one of the things that I kept saying over and over again is I want to make sure that what we are doing is relevant and meaningful for teachers, because I know that I don't have the ability to keep pulse with all of those buildings and all of those teachers. And that's where at first the curriculum specialists, they were able to be in buildings, and then we're like, we need more support. We need people, instructional support in buildings every single day, helping me better understand what our teachers and our staff truly need to feel supported in the instructional journey and transformation as we go from improving our academics. And then also that also goes right into continuing our growth with the PLC model, to developing professional learning communities and true data-driven discussion teams.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Knox. You guys have any other questions for that? We do have some guests here. Our audience is full, and we'll turn it over to Jill to share what's great.
Good evening. Here with our 3 What's Great today. Quiz for you, and we're going to start with the kids, of course, as we always do. So I'm going to invite Dr. Hickman to come up here and tell us who's here tonight. Lots of friends.
Okay, so you can see the list that we've got up here. These are all of your Harrisonville students that have received the award of Young Professional of the Month at Cash Career Center. So we kind of reframe Student of the Month and we call it Young Professional. And so over the course of the year, we typically aim to do a junior or a senior each month to get that recognition. And so of the Harrisonville students, you can see the ones that have been awarded so far throughout the year. And we do actually have 3 of them in attendance tonight. So I'll ask the 3 students to come up. And then also, they each have an instructor here, so I'm going to force their hand a little bit. They'll make me groan about it, but that's okay. So if the students and their instructor please step up briefly, we'll give them some recognition. So you get to form this fun lineup here just in front of the whole crowd. I know, they're
not the only one.
begrudging me. We have to go there too. You were tricked. Kelly, you were tricked. The students got you here, and then I got you. I knew I should have done something. Yeah, I know, darn it. So real quickly, I'll tell you who we have here, but then I'm going to let the instructors just briefly tell you why this student is standing in front of you, because they're pretty incredible. Not only are they stand-up students, but they stood out amongst a lot of stand-up students. So that's a pretty cool recognition. And then I'd like the students to tell you a little bit about themselves, like the program you're in, and then how that's kind of guiding what you want to do with your future. Is that fair? Easy enough question, right? Okay, so Preston, I'd love to start with you. And Mr. Decock, do you mind talking about Preston Baker?
Preston's a senior in Harrisonville. He's been in the ag program and marketing program for 4 years and been very active in FFA. He serves as our chapter treasurer at the current time. I know you all heard from Preston in, I believe, the August board meeting. He was selected to the HIMAX, or the HYPE Academy, which is the top 30 junior students. That he was a junior last year, so he was the top 30 junior ag student in the state of Missouri, and he got to work with legislators and sat down in Jeff City for a week and really grew from that experience. His freshman year, he was selected to what we call the Missouri HIMAX Academy, which is the top 100 freshmen. So he's really accomplished a lot in the ag program and FFA chapter over the last 4 years. I know he's had success in DECA as well. I think he qualified for international competition in DECA as well. So he's been very successful, and we're really proud of him. So I'll let him talk about maybe your future plans.
So my future plans, as now, so I've gained a lot from the agriculture program. One of the first things I would say that I most benefit from the agriculture program is just what I want to do in my future. Agriculture is a really wonderful opportunity. I want to go into agribusiness and hopefully own my own greenhouse operation in the future, to which I can use my DECA experience as well, using that. There's a lot of marketing that goes into that, and finding a niche and finding a target market, which I hope I will be able to do and learn more about in college.
Thank you, Preston. Yes. And Preston was also part of the Teaching Professions program last year, too, as if he didn't have enough programs. We probably could have fit in one more, but I guess we'll have to work on that. That's awesome. All right, and then we've got Tanner Schick. So if Officer Kelly, you don't mind talking about Tanner?
I have no problem talking about Mr. Schick.
I know.
So I've only known Tanner since August, but he's made a huge impression on me, my program, and the CCC. The man standing before you has a lot of integrity. We talk a lot about that every day. His growth is incredible professionally since the day I met him. He's always willing to help. His community service is outstanding. So I'm just excited about his future. He's just been amazing, and I'm glad I get to have him for one more year. I can't say enough about him. So he's just a leader, and I'm excited to promote him next year. He's probably a supervisor in my program, so he's a good man.
So I should say my name is Tanner Schick. I'm a part of AG as well, so I know Mr. Dika. I've been with Mr. Dika for all 3 of my high school career, and then with her for just this year. But like you said, I try to do as much as I can. I also own my own business, Moe, so I try to do whatever I can. I've been at almost every community service event we've had. So I plan on becoming a police officer for Belton. I'm unsure of college at this moment because I don't know whether or not I need it. But that's where I plan to go as a police officer for Belton.
Thank you, Tim. All right, and then last but not least, Miss Emma on the end, and so
I will. This is Emma Coffey, and Emma is a junior at Harrisonville High School. She is in the teaching profession program this year. And I should also note that she wears a marketing hat at CCC as well. She is DECA President of Marketing. Did I say that right? So she is very passionate about that program as well. She cannot be bored. She needs her hand in all of the good things at all times. She loves to organize. She loves to lead. She is an incredible leader, not only at Cass Career Center, but at Harrisonville High School. Emma qualified first in state at Educators Rising, so we're heading off to DC this June to compete nationally. So that's just her confidence just completely propelled her through that presentation and that competition, and she's fun to work with. She's my friend. I love to see her succeed and excel in the things that she does. So.
As you said, I'm Emma. I'm a junior at Harrisonville High School. My future plans, they're kind of undecided. I know I want to do something with teaching at some point later in life. I'm currently a daycare teacher. I just started a new job. I also want to do something with cosmetology, which kind of has to do with marketing, but I love marketing. I love working with Ms. Schroeder. I plan to be on the board for DECA next year to make it even better. And I love Cass Career Center.
So it's real quick, if you don't mind. So it's the last couple of months we've seen the youngest, the ECC kids come in and talk about their careers, and we've seen the middle school kids come in and talk about their career club. Well, hopefully, ideally, one day they all get to grow up and be as fantastic as these fine individuals that you've got right here. So very, very easy to stand in front of you all and talk about these kids and their peers who aren't able to be here tonight, because they really do. The Harrisonville system produces some fantastic students, and you're looking at a few of them right here. So, thank you.
All right, real quick. Who's here?
Oh, yeah. Preston.
Give it up to your families. This is my mother and my father, Michael and Renee Baker.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
This is my grandma Debbie and my grandpa Harold. He's the one that I'm following after because
This is my mom, and then back there is my dad.
I should add one more thing because I do these 3. I take pictures of them all the time because just in the musical, really involved in the theater department, involved in the CCP class at the high school, our Client Connect project, and that's what. And she's my intern. You saw her face last week. Yeah. So just FYI, they're just wow.
Yeah. Let's get a picture.
Let's do it.
Yep. With you guys, you 2 want to join them?
Well, I think Joe is
So your parents
I was in a long time. I know. I saw them multiple times a day and nothing.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, you don't like it? Let's kill her for that one. Okay, here we go. I got it.
You got it? Thanks, Jill.
I got you.
Appreciate it.
Jill, I want to share, I hope, just aside, Preston does start a greenhouse at some point in time. I'd really like to work with you after I retire. That would be. I worked at a greenhouse when I was in high school. I loved every minute of it. But Tanner, I had seen him around the high school many, many times, and he is so personable and such an amazing young man. And I hope at some point in time we will be hiring Emma as
Sooner
one
than
of
later,
our
please.
Teachers here in Harrisonville schools, because we would be the ones blessed to have her for sure. And we also had somebody come up that was recently recognized, and we just want to send a shout out to Mr. Dekoff,
Yes.
who is Teacher of the Year and a semifinalist or finalist for the Ag. Were you going to say something?
No, go for it.
And you will find out soon. When is that?
Thursday.
Thursday. He is number one FFA in our heart. So whether he wins that or not, we are again blessed to have such amazing people.
Okay. These next two maybe not as exciting because there's no people associated with them, but a couple more points of pride that I kind of wanted to share with you was at HES, have they completed it? Is the final vote?
They finish, I believe, Thursday.
Okay, so they've been doing a March Madness challenge with books, and this was made possible through a grant from the foundation. The foundation provided books, and they chose 4 authors, so each grade level had an author, or 7th grade had 2, I believe. And we bought books from that author, and the students have been reading them in class and then voting for their favorite, just like the bracket challenge. And the books have been going along. This is the bracket that's in their main hallway, so the kids can see who's winning. And so they're wrapping that up, but then all the books that they use for that challenge will stay in the teacher's classroom library for them to use all the time. And the feedback from the teachers, I had asked them for a little bit of feedback, and amazing. Like, it has really amped up the students' interest in reading. And one of the teachers even said she had students bringing in books from home or asking to read during recess. That tells you a lot right there if they're trying to read during recess. And then one little girl in 3rd grade told her teacher that she wanted to be a teacher and she wanted to do this exact same project in her class when she was a teacher because she wanted kids to love reading just as much as she did. So I thought that was a great testament to the value of that program and how well it went. So I wanted to highlight that because you might not have seen it if you haven't been in ATS. And then just want to touch on some real world learning pieces. Like Annie said, we've been working on real world learning in the district, and wanted to highlight a few things that are going on that you might not know about. Aiden Walton is an intern with the city of Harrisonville in their IT department. Thank you to Brad for helping us get that set up. And so he's been working there all year long, and he's been a valuable asset to them, and it's a great opportunity to have that internship. We also had 2 mock interviews recently. The middle school had their career explorations mock interviews that Kiwanis helped support. And then at CCC, actually, they'll finish up tomorrow. They're doing senior interviews at the Cass Career Center. And they had, on their first day of senior interviews, they did it 2 days. They've had 92 seniors participating in these, with 40 community volunteers representing 26 businesses across the region, including some major players like J.E. Dunn, MoDOT, some Kansas City unions, and local emergency services. And the students are getting the opportunity to interview in front of panels. As you see that down there, that's Riley Wood and Ag, interviewing in front of a panel of 4 people. So getting valuable feedback through that process. So they'll finish that up tomorrow. So I thought that was something to share. And then the other thing I wanted to share, I mentioned last month, is another real world learning experience. Kirsten Talley is a DECA student and a DECA intern. And she has helped the CCC start their new TikTok account. And it's called The Cass Experience. So if you're on TikTok, follow The Cass Experience. She's doing a really great job kind of showing what Cass Career Center is all about. Not just about the programs, but about what it's like to be in a school where you're there with a lot of students from other schools, where you're able to put skills and things on hands-on. and she's having a lot of fun with it. So I thought that was a great experience for her to have in the DECA program and as an intern doing that. So that was the role world learning I wanted to share. Questions?
I will tell you guys the one that Jill just shared about the mock interviews at the middle school. So many of you might know this character in our community, Dave Kaufeld. And he said, as a rule, I would never give a 10. And that's the highest score you could give because they do score their kids on this. And he said, I couldn't help it. There were 3 or 4 that were just, and there were a couple of other people that had stated the same thing, and just phenomenal.
She really, she does a lot for the students, a lot.
So it's just another way for us to feed that real world learning and market value assets with us. So thank you, Joe. That's all I have.
Item 8C, strategic plan.
And parents and students, if you would like to leave, please feel free to do that.
Sorry.
Okay. We have Dr. Parkhurst to give us a quick update of our work that we did last week with our strategic plan.
Yep. Since our last meeting, we had our action team leader training. So the leaders and co-leaders of each one of our strands that we solidified met and underwent some training. It was a pretty extensive process where they were trained on how to lead those teams and what was necessary and what we were looking for. After that, we had on the same day, which was a lot on the same day, but we also had our community meeting out at the community center. So we were fortunate enough to have good space to have people come and meet with us. Our external facilitator did an excellent job of explaining the process and what our strands were and what the original team had dedicated as things that were important to our community and our school district. From that meeting, they then broke off and had the opportunity to be a part of individual action teams. And so we set those individual teams. And we've already had a couple teams that have met already. So we're starting to see notes and agendas from those. And we're pretty excited about the work that those individual groups are doing. So,
and this is not, I think it's hard to tell everybody you're going to put a lot of work into the work you're going to do. It's really hard because then you may not have anybody show up. So we told our action team leaders it's going to be a lot of work, but it was more than what I told them. And some of them in the back of the room can say yes. But then we had a full room of community that came to that meeting. And I had looked back at Jill multiple times and said, what if nobody shows up? But when they came, they recognized that it wasn't just a, hey, I think you should do this in security and safety, and I think you should do this in well-being. It wasn't that. What are you interested in? What do you want to be a part of? And they're going to spend the next 2 or 3 months putting those plans together so that they can share it out to our planning committee and then the board. So it's an extensive process, but it recognizes it's not just another plan put together, but one that will guide us for the next 5 years. So thank you for the work that you're doing, Dr. Parkhurst and Jill, for that.
Item 8D, finance update.
Well, those will be pretty boring after listening to all that student achievement news. It was wonderful. But in the world of school finance in our district, we're 75% of our fiscal year is complete. Overall revenues are 88% of the working budget. And just a reminder, as a board, you adopt a budget in June. And then throughout the year, as the financial picture becomes a little clearer, we will do a budget amendment, which is a working budget. So then at the end of, at June of this year, then we will amend our budget from last year. So as we're starting to get some of those figures a little clearer in our books, right now our working budget revenues are about 37.2 million, which is about 2.5 million above what the budget adopted was. And those increases are due to the interest rates are still very, very high, so we've received a lot of interest. Transportation went up again a little bit this year, which is good. We've received several grants through the CCC. Our debt service levy, we did that prepayment, so we have a little more debt service money. And then we bought out that cell tower lease, so that was about 400,000 there. Then on the expenditure side, we're at like 68% of our working budget, and that's at 36 million compared to about 34 million of what you adopted. And a little bit higher on the expenditure side due to the pavilion project, through the CCC, the bond payment, like I mentioned. We bought a significant, or in the process of buying a significant amount of kitchen equipment because our food and nutrition balance is getting higher than what the state will allow us. So we need to make some capital purchases to bring that balance down a little bit, and the kitchens will benefit from that. And then our parking lot paving last summer was not in the budget that we adopted. So overall, we're looking at about almost $1 million of revenue over our expenditures for the year, which is going to allow our fund balance to grow. And our fund balance percentage currently is at 57% compared to 49% last year. And this is where Dr. Chastain talked about that. We're going to have to dip into that more than likely this year because of the decrease in state funding that we will, or next school year, because of the decrease in enrollment and the state funding amount. So just as a reminder of what that fund balance percentage actually represents, it's an indication of what our financial stability is. So at 57%, that means we have enough operating funds in our budget to operate for 57% of what our year is, or a little under 7 months. So we're looking pretty good there. Our goal is to be in the 20-25% range, or about 3 months of operating budget. So we're feeling pretty good about that. The peak, we've just kind of come off of the peak of what our fund balance will be because of the revenues that come in from the state. So at the start of last fiscal year, we were at 37%, or about 4.5 months worth of operating budget. So things are looking pretty good. So we will be dipping into that. It's not an if, it's a will. So just because of the increased insurance and salary and benefits increases. So we're taking a cautious approach, as Dr. Chastain said, and we will get through this. Okay.
Questions for Deb? Thank you. Item 80, April 2024 MSBA report.
We're anesthesiologists, surgeons, emergency medicine physicians.
With a look back at the beginning of MSBA's Spring Advocacy Series. The spring virtual meeting was held on March 13th and featured a presentation by Dr. Stephanie Cuevas, an assistant professor of education at Atala College of Educational Studies at Chapman University in California. She is the co-author of the scholastic book, Everyone Wins, The Evidence for Family-School Partnerships and Implications for Practice. Dr. Cuevas considers it imperative to consider the significant and central role that families play in shaping the educational experiences of students. During the session, she said that although board members aren't involved in the day-to-day of school operations, there are still many ways that they can help promote family involvement.
And I think it's just advocating for it, right? And again, really, how are you defining parent involvement, family engagement, and understanding that it is a variety of things, right? It's not just a very typical, we used to call it, moving beyond the baby cell, right? That is not just, families doing that, but again, it's something that folks that are not in the nitty gritty of schools every day can advocate for. It's like, how do we get feet about developing the educators' capacity to do that? Another way is always, advocate for more funding for it, right? So I think that those are two ways to really think about it. Well, what is needed in my local context, district level or state level, and really how do we help both educators and families learn how to work with each other, and that's through capacity development, competency, professional development, and making a requirement. Like I mentioned before, and a lot of research shows that, I as a teacher, I as a principal, am expected to make these relationships happen, but I don't know how.
The first Lunch and Learn of the Spring Advocacy Series featured an interview with Dr. Margie Van Diemen, conducted by MSBA Executive Director Melissa Randall. The discussion covered a variety of topics, covering many of Dr. Van Diemen's experiences, opportunities, and challenges she faced as Commissioner of Education. She explained that regardless of your role in education, staying focused on your why is key to serving.
It is about serving my students every day. I mean, we hear that often throughout our state, but that is the why. And what I have found to be a little bit challenging at the department level, I'm sorry this is longer than 30 seconds, but it is always about what's best for our kids. And people remind me that I'm much removed from that student in the classroom at Jefferson City. So what can I do? A lot of times my why is just how do I lift up those we serve, our students, by lifting up those who serve them. And you've heard me say that. And our job really at the department is how do we put systems or policies in place that help the local leaders do their jobs and in a better way to better serve our kids, help them, help our students.
Dr. Van Diemen also thanks school board members for their support during her time as commissioner.
That is probably one of the first things I learned in my role in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and working with school improvement efforts is the critical role that our local school board members play. And I have grown a relationship with many of the local school board members across the state, so thank you for your support, for your professionalism, but also for your friendship throughout this time.
State Senator Carla Esslinger will be Missouri's next Commissioner of Education beginning in June. Esslinger will continue her work as a state senator until June 1st, when she will join Dr. Van Diemen in the commissioner's spot and begin the transition. The deadline is approaching to sign up for your district's free emergency operations plan development tool. MSBA, in partnership with the Department of Public Safety, is offering another school safety improvement program for fiscal year 24, expiring on June 1st of this year. The program funding provides public school districts that did not participate in last year's funding program with 1 year at no cost access to MSBA's online emergency operations plan development tool, MoEOP. Any Missouri public school district or charter school not using the MoEOP tool should take advantage of this limited time offer. John McDonald, the Chief Operating Officer of MSBA Center for Education Safety, says that it's more important than ever to have a good emergency operations plan.
I responded to and managed school threats and emergencies for the past 16 years. And what I proved is that the school threats of today are more complicated than ever before. And the very best school safety, prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery begins with a robust emergency operation plan. At CES, we believe strongly, like all of you, in the duty to protect our students and staff. And it was with this in mind that we created the web-based Missouri Emergency Operation Plan tool, also known as MoEOP, that 247 districts across the state have been using for the past year. The MoEOP tool, with your input, will provide you with a safe and secure web-based all-hazard school emergency operation plan.
Visit the MSBA website for more information on how to register for your district's free MoEOP tool. Make your plans now to attend MSBA's Summer Summit June 24th and 25th in Branson. Join school board members and leaders from across Missouri to learn about emerging trends and hot topics in education. It's a great opportunity to participate in valuable sessions and to connect with your colleagues from schools across the state. Also, be sure your board is represented at the June Delegate Assembly to be held in conjunction with the Summer Summit. Delegates will be electing state officers for the coming year at that meeting. The nominating committee is proposing a slate of officers for consideration, including the offices of President-elect and Vice President. You can watch video interviews with the candidates for state office posted on the MSBA website. Registration information for the Summer Summit is also posted on the website. And last, but certainly not least, if you were elected to your school board for the first time this month, welcome to school board service. Missouri law requires all school board members to receive 18 and a half hours of training within their first 12 months of service. MSBA's new board member training fulfills this requirement and provides the foundation for becoming an effective board member. The training is free for all new board members. Check the MSBA website for a schedule of training opportunities along with registration information. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in May for the next MSBA board report.
Okay, item 8F, request for easement. This is an action item. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the request of the city of Harrisonville for the donation of permanent and temporary easements as presented.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
So they're gonna clean up our ditch, is that what this is about?
It does, just to give you background, it is a continuation of flood remediation efforts by our city. And this is allowing, because we own that street that's right by McEwen, they're going to need to go down, not our side of the street, but the other side of the street, and then under to that ditch that is in, out by the school, Rockford School. And so that is a great place for it as they continue to work for it to be continue to be upgraded and cleaned up. So we support that.
Maybe at some point the city would like to take our street on. Okay, any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Request passes. Item 8G, waiver of teacher contract days. This is an action item. Would entertain a motion.
I move to waive the makeup day of the February 14th, 2024 teacher contract day.
Motion second, discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's important to note that we will be communicating through our communications director as well as myself that as much as Dr. Parkhurst and Dr. Chesney would like to see the Chiefs win every single year at the Super Bowl, that we will not continue to have a day off for the Chiefs parade, as it is no longer a once in a lifetime event, but an every year or every other year event, which we appreciate. But we need to continue to push that message. It really, this year, had nothing to do with us, but more with the bigger districts in around Kansas City. When they're out, our staff members have kids that are not going to school, and it causes us, but we're going to have to start to move through that. And I think some of the other districts around us will start that process.
Seeing no other, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Item 8H, 2024-25 insurance renewal is an action item. Motion.
I'll move to approve the renewal of the Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance rates with the addition of 2 new Blue Select Plus plans and changing the base plan to Blue Select Plus Spira, and then QHBHP/HSA.
Second.
Motion second. I know there's some questions, discussion, so whoever wants to kick it off.
I have a question. I don't have any issue, I want to say right up front, I have zero issue with the change to the Spira Care.
and the 726.21 premium. I think that's reasonable. 5% is definitely much better than where we were at 17%. I'm curious about the 2379 contribution to the HSA, and I'll say there's 3 reasons I'm concerned about it. It's not the amount, because it is a small amount. It does add 3 more points to the premium, so it's an additional 8 for total. It's 8% increase to the district. We already had said that I think about 70% were already using that network, and it feels like we're incentivizing people that are already doing the thing, so it didn't necessarily feel as much as a necessary thing.
It wasn't that 70% were using that base plan. It was that 70% were using doctors out of our base plan that we currently have.
That would still continue to receive their care. I guess I feel like it's a little bit more of an incentive when those numbers are kind of flipped in general, that it's more of an incentive. And then the third thing, this is probably my biggest concern, is precedent setting, because there's nothing that anybody likes less than getting a benefit and getting it pulled back. And if we approve it, again, it's a small amount, but next year we know what insurance rates are continuing to do, and this is a continuous discussion that we're having. And I would hate to just start this and then have to pull it back because of that discussion that will come up if we know next year. So those are my 3 concerns with it. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker. I'm just really concerned about those 3 things.
Yeah, so with regards to that extra piece, really knowing that this is a bigger change than what we have had in the past, we're trying to find a way that we can support those that either need to have the base plan because they are unable to do it via, or to incentivize that process. We have had an HSA in the past, and it does go away. It has gone away in the past. The one thing that we can say about the HSA is that whatever money goes into the HSA, if it is changed where we don't do that again, they are still able to hold on to that money in their HSA. So we're just trying to provide that little bit of an incentive by moving it from that 726 to that 750 as a round opportunity to support those that might be able to have to or can't afford that buy-up. But we are recognizing that we're in a position of need for change. And as I talked to you guys about before, there are some things that somebody can come in and just make big decisions. This is a big decision for our district, but something else needs to happen because we can't just continue down this road. And so I will tell you guys that one of my biggest charges for next year is to figure out what the answer is. As I have met with the other districts in our conference, we are close to the top. We are not the top. That is Warrensburg, and they are in a completely different situation where they have a large number of dollars that they put towards theirs. Just a little bit more or less, but it is now prohibiting them from raising their base pay. And so we have to find an answer, but I want to make sure that we're stepping on it. I'll also let you know that I did talk to the president of Cass Regional because it will make a shift. All doctors that are currently seen will continue to be available for all of our staff. There may be a buy-up, but Cass Regional is looking at how they can look at what network they're in, so it might align with the networks that we're looking at.
What do you think about precedent setting and then trying to pull it out to make decisions about that in the future?
Well, the only
I know we can't make it on the future, but it just that.
I'd like to think, and I would think that Deb might have that same opinion, that it has happened in the past, and regardless of what we add to their HSA, it remains in their HSA account whether we have it or not. So if we pull back from that, they can continue to hold on to the money that they have in their HSA. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct, and I think one of the reasons why we were offering that as well is that for those people that do feel like they want to do a buy-up plan and stay with the network that we currently have, this will help offset a little bit of that buy-up amount to just help them.
Just to check numbers then, are we really, if that's the case, then I would agree that's what it looks like too. We're really, it is, the 726 is a 5% increase, but really the 750 is an 8% increase. And so I just want to make sure that we're adding 3 points, that again, the numbers, the total number is not a lot in the big picture. This is just a big expense in general, and I just want to make sure we've thought through.
Yeah, we will, what we would like to do is to give you an update after we've gone through open enrollment to see what that actual expense will be, knowing it's not, everybody gets that, it's just not true, that based on it, so that people are being chosen that based on.
I guess my concern is that we're going to get to a point where a applicant is going to come to an interview, ask what the salary scale is, and then right behind that, they're going to ask, what's your insurance like? And I have this feeling that we're going to begin losing great applicants because even though we are doing a phenomenal job at looking at our salary scales, our insurance is, and I've lived it, my wife and I lived it for so many years. And I understand we can only do what we can do. But I just implore you guys and girls and ladies to just, I don't know what we have to do. We've got to put our heads together and look outside the box at what we can do to provide for our families. It's just, how many times are we not going to the doctor because it might be $80? And, you know, and I understand the SpiroCare, but within the 50% of where our teachers are at on that Blue KC PPO, having to go with that is going to be a huge change. I look forward to working with you, to seeing what we can do, because
well, let me give you one more piece of information that plays into this. It is not only a choice of ours to choose what insurance we have, but we are required as a school district to remain with a plan that keeps our retired teachers on it. And the biggest problem that we have in our district is risk. So if we decide we want to choose another plan, another person, remember we went out to 4 different companies and 2 didn't even bid because of our risk. We have, and we, of course, we don't know who they are, but we are unable to remove risk from whatever we do. So what we have provided with this is a continuation of board paid. And there can be a point where if we want to do more or to have more, we could say the board offers this amount and the rest is yours to pay, which is a very difficult decision to make. But we have to find out that that risk is always over our head with regards to, I believe we have a handful or more that have over $250,000 in claims each year. That is way above many other districts, as well as prescription costs. All are owed to the people who work in our district, but does set that risk to where we're that, those of you who dealt in risk and putting that on, we're that, there's a different colored light on in our district and everybody knows it. And so finding that balance is going to be a difficult task, but one that I want to figure out what.
And that is a normal thing from district to district, correct? As far as the risk and.
It is. If you have fewer staff members, that changes your risk. More staff members changes that. But I will continue, as Michael said, to find ways that our other districts are able to mitigate some of that, One of which is we have some of our districts around us that are self-insured and kind of a consortium of self-insured. However, that takes a great deal of startup to be able to do that. I know that in talking with RAPAC, they have the same that we have. However, they have a cap and then they self-insure past that cap, so it lowers the risk that everybody sees. So that may be an answer that we're able to do as well, because knowing that we can have a small 2 to 5% increase each year is much better than us having that risk of leading us to 16 or 17%. And I was pleased to talk with Chris Lane about knowing that they're working. We're just in a very difficult place, and I know that I've told you guys that too, with us seeing Cass Regional here on the hill. You would think that it should serve up everybody here, but it has limited services, and many of our staff members do not live here in Harrisonville. So other districts, if we were in Pleasant Hill or we don't have a hospital that we're looking at that it should provide. Those people are driving out elsewhere, which is what the base plan of this. But as I shared with our staff members, the board, and you guys have stated to me, you still have to make sure that there's an option for everybody to keep the doctor that they have or the current plan that they have, and that is not it.
You said you went around, and I know there were Team Harrisonville meetings and things. It sounds like that was generally well received. And did you get any good feedback that we need to be aware of, or feedback from the staff?
The principals were in there. Again, I don't know that it was feedback. It was just an understanding. Again, anytime we start talking about these changes, it impacts our staff. And so one of the things that I have asked them to do, the magician of numbers, is to make sure that if there are increases that our staff have to pay, that our hopeful raise step addition to the base outweighs that additional cost. Because the one thing we don't want to do is to say, well, we're going to change this and you're going to see less money next year. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're keeping out front of the pay to outweigh that increased cost that they may be seeing.
Other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 8I, tennis court proposal. This is an action item. Chair, would you take a motion?
Motion to approve the sharing costs with the city of Harrisonville in the amount of $7,425.50 each for repairs to the city tennis courts.
Second.
Discussion?
Have you seen the tennis courts, any of you?
Yes.
I personally do not think that the $7,000 option is going to do what actually needs to happen for the safety of our students playing on the courts, in my personal opinion. I don't think we need to go to the highest end, but I do think we need to consider the $56,000 area because it's not safe to play on, in my opinion. I even seen the teams, I was there on, I don't know if it was last week, Thursday? Yes, Thursday I was there briefly. On Friday there was a meet in town and the team coming in and they're practicing on the one that really needs to be fixed. I mean, it's a liability, it's an issue. And I think we need to put a little bit more into it, honestly. I know we need to be saving money, but this is not even a Band-Aid. It's not even a Band-Aid to the problem, in my opinion.
Grant, would you be able to speak to what will be repaired?
Sure.
And one of the things that, and I get where you're going with as well, and I think we can make some decisions about that, with it being a partnership with the city.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it a motion to have them an extra cost as well. So I see where you're coming from, and Grant can give us a little bit. One of the other things that I'd like to point out is in our relationship with the city, we are lucky to have a place for our tennis courts because we don't have any other place. But as we look at our future and the city looks at their future, Grant and I have talked about this as well, knowing that we need to look at how we can provide that space. The city really, and Grant, please correct me if I'm wrong, but really could easily have some alternative plans for those, but really try to help keep us moving forward in the tennis project.
Yeah, absolutely. So those tennis courts are pushing, they're 50 plus years old, and they are in bad shape. And they are at a point of safety concern, and that's why the net's off field, or court 3 right now. And so this is a Band-Aid, it's a small Band-Aid because we don't have the funds as a parks department to really spend $56,000 or up to $680,000 to do them all. The best we could do is to fill the cracks on the worst courts and to get them playable, and that's the $14,000. And so the fastest we can do it is probably, I told them just go ahead and put us on the schedule tentatively. They said probably May 1st, and that's, I talked to the tennis coaches the other day, I ran into them, they're gonna probably be done before it's even completed. But this will get us to fall for girls season, so.
Yeah, and thank you, Graham, for that. I will tell you, Jenny, that this is a big need, and you know, we try to plan for the future, and we hope that when we go to our summer retreat, we'll be able to share some of those ideas and things for our possible bond issue. And so our goal is Band-Aid, where we can get through that beginning of next season and kind of get going to see what else we can do.
And I know we've used the courts for many years. Have we ever? I don't, I mean, and I haven't been on forever. But apologize, Susan, but do you recall us ever having to contribute money to the city? Yeah, we've used the courts, right?
Yeah.
So we've benefited from them, and I get it. But we've not ponied up half of the cost before that I'm aware of. So it's been very grateful that we've been able to do that, and the kids benefit from it. So it is a Band-Aid. But if we have future plans, sometimes we have to do that, I think, to get to that. So, yeah, it's a temporary fix, but,
What benefit, I guess for the fall, but I don't know, it just feels like spending the money is almost throwing good money after bad, because it's fixing the problem, but it's not fixing the other pieces are pretty bad as well. Certainly not as bad as that Court 3 is, but I can just say rolling over them for the last weekend, it's not, there's so many cracks there, I don't know how we haven't had injuries.
Maybe we look at a way of grant we are approved through this, and we work through that process. Let's take a look at them after a repair project and see where they're at that juncture.
I don't recall us ever spending any money on prior maintenance before. And again, it's a temporary fix, so it may be a stranded cost that we have on that and get to something bigger.
So I noticed in their proposal, on every single proposal that this company submitted, they don't guarantee the work basically, and say that existing cracks and new cracks will probably appear. It's like, well, what?
The truth is, those courts really just probably need to come out and
Yeah.
new courts need to be put in.
So this is it just gonna be a thin coat
This is
over it?
this is going to, they're gonna grind out, clean out the cracks, fill the cracks, make it smooth, and repaint the surface. And so
it'll last for a little while.
it'll get us through some seasons.
Yeah. And then does the city have any plans for tennis courts or no?
But that's after
The craze, is pickleball, and so I think as their job is to support the community, I think they'd like to try that.
To be honest, this is to help. This is to help the school right now. I had zero public outcry about the tennis court.
Nobody else uses it.
Unless it comes down to the tennis team. And when the tennis team's doing better, I hear about it more often. And so I've been hearing about it, so since we have a good girls tennis team, now the boys are doing pretty good too, so.
Okay.
But the public that I do hear from always ties back down to the high school tennis team.
I guess like as a former tennis coach, not qualified. I just think like even if you just send somebody around, pick up the leaves, just something, just show that we're some good faith, and I don't even know if it's getting the tennis teams, boys and the girls, come out and just doing like a, spring cleanup or fall cleanup, because I don't like the fence, like balls are going like 9 times out of 10 the ball goes underneath or having to toss the tennis balls up. So I see both sides of it so much. Is this something that until we have another plan that even if we have to do some cost sharing in the future to where every year we're going out and before winter comes, we're going out and finding, I know McConnell Associates, they probably sell, whatever they're putting in there, or part maintenance, or if we can go out there on a day and crack lines that we think might be coming up and just try to push us along as far as we can. But yeah, I just in the commercial aspect of it, construction, it's $15,000. I'm surprised they didn't show up with their equipment for $15,000.
I struggle to get that number. I
So
kind
I'm
of had to
just
put a carrot in front of them to give me that number. And so that's why you saw the 4 quotes, because I have kind of had to say, there could be something in the future for you guys that I need to fix now.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the city helping us.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And we really don't have any other options. So I say we do it.
Questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So, APA soccer locker rooms, this is the information session.
So we have Dr. Parkhurst here just to share a little bit of the work that we are looking into to impact our girls wrestling as well as soccer locker rooms. It's important to know that when we have soccer locker rooms, it's a whole impact piece. I'll let Dr. Parkhurst go. I just want to say one thing on this. This is a part of our capital improvement, of which part of our tax levy goes to. So we have our money available to do the pieces that we need to do if and when it would be approved. But we don't have that budgeted for everything. And so what happened was when we went out to see what we could do, we have talked about working on getting our community outreach center updated, which is the old Wildcat Academy. Our intention is moving Bright Futures as well as PAT to that new facility. With the removal of Bright Futures from the facility that's below the football field, we are in need of a surplus facility as well as some upgrades. And so we went out and started looking at that. And Julian, when we talked about this, when it came up, the mechanical upgrades to come to code hit us over the head like a whopping willow, and it got us to where we had to make some changes in exactly what we could do at this time. And so Dr. Parker, should want to share a little bit about kind of our plans and get into what our future thoughts are.
Yeah, so when I first started here, actually before I first started here, an area of need that I heard consistently was dedicated space, either in the avenue of locker rooms or dedicated wrestling facility for female athletes in the area of wrestling. Pretty passionate group, and I think they had a well-intended argument to what that need level was. So in our long-term facility plan, we begin to navigating what pricing would be on freestanding structures. We even navigated through converting our current weight room into that type of facility and then reestablishing a weight room externally. All of those things came with big numbers, which would obviously tie themselves to a bond. Okay, so what we were looking at was a potential opportunity to do something now for our kids. Okay, to give them the opportunity to have their own space now. With the movement of Station 42, okay, so if we put this in perspective, Station 42, where it currently is going to move over to Wildcat Academy. That gave us the opportunity to kind of reallocate that space. With that being publicly known, Mr. Maxwell had called me after he had talked to a couple of the coaches, and a big collaborative process because there's a lot of people involved in this type of thought. They said that there might be an opportunity to repurpose our current facilities without creating a brand new structure. Okay, so that's where the thought and the idea kind of began. From that, I met with the coaches and Mr. Maxwell down in that facility. We went through just to see if it would be something that would work for them. And then we brought architects out to take a look at it also to see kind of what it would entail. From that, it just kind of progressed into the mechanical issues that Dr. Chastain had referenced. We need to get air into those buildings, and it costs a lot of money to get air into those buildings. This is basically what it comes down to. Okay? So, what we're discussing right now is primarily the soccer locker room. The reason we're only talking about soccer, even though I've spent this entire time talking about women's wrestling, is because that's phase one of the ultimate goal. Okay? Right now, the facility that sits just, if you're looking at the two buildings from the football stadium, sits just to the right of it, is a wrestling room that our middle school utilizes. But on the north end of that building is a soccer locker room. Okay? And it's not, it's a great space for what they've made it. It's not the greatest of spaces. Okay? They have a lot of pride in it because they're great kids, but we could do them better. So the thought process was, phase one of our ultimate goal was to move that soccer locker room over to the other building that already has a north-facing door to the stadium, create a coach's office so we can separate the girls athletes from the male coaches, locker facility, offices, washer and dryer, showers, etc. Okay? We would need to put a system, HVAC system, mechanical system in there. It's a lot less expensive because it's not a practice facility, it's just a locker room. So we can probably do a split system in that facility. So because we knew that the astronomical number that we had, let's just work within the means of what we can do. Let's move soccer, worry about what we can control, focus there, get them their space, make it the best that we can. That will then allow us to ultimately still achieve our goal to a degree because we will have a dedicated space for women's wrestling. Okay? It's not what we want it to be. It's a long ways from where we want it to be, but that will be the next phase in trying to get that up to where we want it to be. However, cosmetically, externally, there are some stuff we can do within our own operating budget right now. Signage, paint, so on and so forth. But interior-wise, there's not a lot that we can do right now because if we start messing with it, at the end of the project, it has to be up to code. So we need to be a little bit careful with what we start putting into it and what we start doing. So that's basically everything in a nutshell that I can think of since, I think, Brent, correct me if I'm wrong, it was June that we met outside? That was the first time that we had met about this, and then I've met with Coach Eric several times about this. Like, really what we want is to give soccer what they deserve and give girls wrestling what they deserve. And that's what we're trying to do in the scope of what we can control and what we can be financially responsible for. Is there anything I'm missing?
What happens to middle school wrestling? Not that that's the priority, but where do they
No.
go if they're using that facility now?
That's a great question. We've talked about that as a staff. There's a couple different options. What we had thought initially is a 7-12 program where we have girls, middle school, and high school together, and then we do the same thing for the boys. Now, if that's something that the coaches don't feel like is feasible or so on and so forth, then the option could be mats inside the middle school in some way, shape, or form. Which, as a former wrestling coach, is something that we did pretty consistently. But I think that there's some benefit to a 7-12 program as long as your numbers don't create an unsafe environment.
Coach Herrick, how many square feet would you normally need for wrestling, like a practice space, just out of curiosity?
Well, I mean, but
Like a good, like,
it would be what the high school wrestling room is right now.
which is what? Is it?
I don't know.
How many mats? We have 2.5 full mats in there, which mats are 42 by 42.
Do that now. I will. I will do that now, actually.
I guess my aspect on this is girls wrestling is not going away. I would compare it to pickleball. So I guess if that relates it.
You need like 1,800 square feet, 2,000 square feet? Is that?
Probably, I mean,
around that?
whatever the high school wrestling room is, I haven't really measured it. I just know what we have in there.
2,000 square feet or so?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what we currently have available to them. So we
In that-
already have that
In that building.
in that building.
Yeah.
At school or at
But the wrestling room is not counting the locker room or coach's office or anything like that. That's just the wrestling room.
I just feel that, I just feel that 200,000, I mean, I don't know, well, most of you know, but my husband is a builder and this is what he does for a living. And I just feel that $200,000 to renovate a locker room is a lot of money, honestly. I know that mini split system has to be in there and I get all that. And I understand that the other building has to have some kind of HVAC, which actually, for that side, you can still use enough mini split systems to heat and cool that area without having to do a full HVAC system. You can do it. Because my house, in whatever, the main level of my house uses that. And it would be fine because I live in that and I understand that. So I'm just saying, I just feel personally that, I know we're just talking about it, but $200,000 just to renovate a soccer locker room, I understand we're moving. I just feel like we could do, there are other ways we need to think outside of the box. I really do. I mean, you can build something out of shipping containers. I'm not saying to use my husband's company, I'm just saying I've seen him do it. It's very possible.
Yeah, for a locker room, absolutely.
Well, not just for locker room, for a facility. I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I feel like we really should maybe look outside of the box at something. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me on that, but they're structurally sound.
I just want to tell you guys, here's the deal. We have the facilities. We're renovating the facilities with an appropriate amount. Remember, $200,000 is not the actual cost. It's the proposed work cost. So if it comes in at $109,000, then that's what we will pay for that cost.
Right, but that's what you have to understand, the jargon that you're giving us, that's what we're seeing. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but we're reading $200,000. That's what I'm seeing.
Up to is correct.
But also, when we get into this, there's gotta be, look at the city, there's gotta be a codes aspect to it that we gotta take into account.
I understand
The
that.
city's gonna have to approve us putting in different HVAC or whatever, and I don't know the codes, but there's a lot more to it than just, move everything over, put in window air conditioner unit, a couple of fans, and let's paint that. We start messing with that. We
No,
gotta do
I
the
understand.
codes and different
It
things.
needs to
So-
be insulated properly, I get it. Trust me, I get all
But I
of it.
also don't know, and I'm all for the women's wrestling, and I want to support it, but I also don't know that we have $2-3 million, $4 million to build a freestanding facility at the high school with the potential of what we're going into next year facing. I don't know how much it costs, $5 million to build a building over there for us, and we have 50 million in reserve. I'd say let's do it.
Easily $4 to $6 million just for that small addition. Because when you start talking about commercial pieces, we're looking at, and just for building, if we were building a new school, it's about $800 a square foot. And so so that cost continues to rise, and it's quite a bit with regards to an addition to the high school. We're trying to do this with the facilities that we currently have, and by moving the soccer, we are now dedicating space for the women's wrestling, and then looking through our budgeting process to figure out how we can then upgrade the women's wrestling locker room. Because we do have male coaches, we need to make sure that they're separated from the locker room facility where they have offices, so that our girls can be safe and have that piece, but it's a step in the process.
Is this part of the long-term, like, strategic plan also, maybe potentially the facilities if we are to potentially, you know, if we look at needing more space, either tennis courts, wrestling, we need that type of space at the high school, or where we have the ground. You know, I mean, you know, we always propose or look, hey, here's what it's gonna cost, and it's gonna take $20 million. I have no clue. $20 million to do this, how are we gonna do it? And it takes some time. And so in the interim, how do we get through to that?
Yeah, I would also say I don't believe that Dr. Parkhurst is seeing this as the finale of all of that, because we're trying to utilize that space as much as possible and make that work. But as a district, we continue to move forward. We will have to continuously make upgrades and necessary improvements to make that work.
I'm curious how many girls we have. Was it about 34?
35 to 40 high school girls.
How many do we have for boys?
Boys wrestling?
Same.
I guess then my next question is, why is the decision to move the girls down there versus the boys?
Great question. Other than the fact that the boys had a dedicated locker room already, and had utilized that space. Yeah, I think it's a good question to a degree, but
just curious.
I think as a board, I'm gonna ask, I need to go take a tour of all the facilities.
Yeah, I
Wholeheartedly agree with that.
Thank you.
I need to go see, like,
Because I can't wrap my mind around it all either.
I would say that holds true with most. I mean, I think we all go to the gyms and stuff, but we all see that part, but we don't necessarily see the internal.
Friends,
Probably don't want
you
to
can
see most
find
of
a nice, we
it.
can-
I would, if you don't mind, if you let me do that, I'll set that up and we can figure out some time to go through Dr. Parkhurst's thing first with our architects and all, or go back to the Kirk, and they can help us go back to
You guys, the next step for this project?
great stuff.
Awesome.
Great stuff.
Very good. 8K, coaching extracurricular recommendations for 24-25. This is an action item, entertain a motion.
I move to approve the recommendations for extra duty staffing beginning with the 2024-25 school year as presented.
Second.
Motion, second, discussion, or questions?
The only question I had, I think everything here makes perfect sense, so thank you for the time you took on that. The question starts with girls' basketball, and then for 2 years, it was the numbers. Like, is that kind of the gauge for all sports, just kind of looking at the numbers over, not make a decision off 1 year?
I think so. I mean, you can have, a small class, if you will, a small 7th grade class, and that may affect the numbers, in a particular sport, in 1 year. So I would hate to take that away after 1 year, but I think if you start seeing a trend of 2 or more consecutive years, then we have to strongly consider that, based on the athlete to coach ratio that you guys approved, 3-4 years ago. At that point, I was coming asking for more coaches because I felt like we needed it. I feel like at this point, as much as I hate to do that, I don't want to take coaches away because it's what's good for kids. But at the same time, I think being fiscally responsible and sticking to our end of the bargain is important as well. So
yeah, Mr. Maxwell.
Now,
we had talked. And I'll tell you, I was very appreciative in making some strategic moves to try to not only square away our middle school, but get that high school up. And those aren't easy decisions, but what he did say to me is, at any point, and we talked about this, at any point, there is a need, and we would fill it.
I have less concern over the need, because I think that's right, I think it's great, we can all use more coaches just in general, it's so good, and the volunteers are certainly helpful, it's more the other, where you don't have as many kids playing, and we've got the C teams that we really want to have, but it's harder to staff everything with it, like that we have too many. Kind of like we used at your base basketball recommendation, we just didn't have as many girls going out, and so
Correct.
we needed to cut back, so that's, I just want to kind of understand where we were with just looking at how long it kind of was, the trend.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that magic number is. I was just thinking, you know, after last year, I'm like, gosh, I don't want to do it after 1 year because in 2 years it may be completely different. But once I saw the same kind of trend after 2 years, and then looking at the numbers, you know, at middle school again, I just don't see significant growth necessarily next year. The year after that, I may become, and it could be next year even. I mean, maybe we do have an influx of girls that want to play basketball, and I'm coming back in December saying, you know, we've started first day of practice and we've had 25 girls come out and we need an extra coach. But at this point, if we stick to 13 to 15, I just don't feel like we need that. It's nice, but we don't need it.
I don't want to ever, I think the C team sports has been a really nice thing. So I'm not at all advocating like taking it away, but
Sure.
at the same time, it becomes looking at everybody's schedule and using that. And I'm sure you're having trouble at sometimes getting C team games just scheduled because
Absolutely.
of other schools having the same issue. So
Absolutely.
that was just my only question on that. So thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. 9A, adjournment.
So moved at 8:48.
Second. Further discussion on that, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned.